skies. All hope seems to die when he sees your eyes running through the night. Only takes him back, always out of sight, traveling through the night. Run, you can run, but you'll never hide. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're doing a bit of an impromptu Wolves versus Chelsea chat. The game takes place, of course, at Molineux tomorrow at 2 p.m. Really looking forward to getting back down to the Golden Palace, and very happy to be joined by Charlie from Chelsea Fan TV and Blue Brother CFC. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, Charlie. How are you doing?
No, great to be here, mate. Pleasure to be on as always. Yeah, feeling all right, mate. Looking forward to the game tomorrow. Always good fun heading up to Wolves. As I'm sure we'll get into, our record's not the best there, and hopefully we can get our first points of the season on the board.
Absolutely. Well, mate, I know that you're going to make a big commitment tomorrow, because you were telling me, because of the transfer links, because it's Sunday, it's like 3.5 hours trip for you tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long one. I mean, London to Wolves isn't normally that bad, but yeah, obviously he's like got to do a change and it's stopping at all the stations. So yeah, it's a bit of a trek. So hopefully it'll be worthwhile.
Absolutely. And well, as like we were saying, the good news is that once you're there, you're literally only a 10-minute stroll, and you're down to Molineux. We're obviously going to get onto score predictions and on the game, but why don't you talk us through Chelsea's summer and how you're feeling about everything at the moment?
Yeah, I mean it's been kind of mad as is the norm these days. Yeah, another change of manager. Kind of doesn't feel like this summer that Pochettino come in and Pochettino left and Maresca came in. That did happen this summer. Feels like a lifetime ago now. Interesting change, and we finished the season quite well. A little bit surprising, but then also perhaps not that surprising. Poch was becoming increasingly outspoken in the press conferences towards the end of the season. It kind of felt like the writing was on the wall with that one. Maresca, of course, a risk, no doubt about it. I think an appointment that a lot of big clubs are kind of leaning towards now, in terms of not necessarily looking at someone for their CV, but someone with, the style of play and their potential. I think, there's maybe a slight obsession at Chelsea looking for, the next Arteta, the next Xabi Alonso, that sort of thing. Another one of Pep's disciples in terms of Maresca. Obviously did well at Leicester last season. I mean, he did what was expected, won the championship with the Premier League squad. So he plays the football we're looking to play, and it'll be interesting to see, how long it takes him to deal with the pressure of Chelsea, how long it takes him to get his style across and implement it on the squad, because a lot of these guys are playing this way for the first time in their careers. And in terms of the business we've done, pretty mixed, I'd say. Obviously, we still need a striker. Hopefully, maybe we get someone in the remaining few days of the window. There's been links to Victor Osimhen. If that doesn't happen, then I'm not really sure who else we could potentially be looking at, if anyone. Obviously, Pedro Neto and Joao Felix coming in has definitely sort of boosted things a little bit. But prior to that, the window wasn't that exciting. Tosin coming in on a free from Fulham, Dewsbury Hall coming from Leicester. And then, some just opportunistic moves in the market. Mark Guiu from Barcelona, £5 million release clause. Kellyman, which is a PSR transfer from Villa. I don't think he's going to see the light of day at the club. And then, a few youngsters that, probably get swallowed up in the multi-club system and will end up being sold on for a profit. So I'd say a mixed bag. We need to address the striker situation, but some good players have come in. And yeah, I'm excited about Pedro Neto, who obviously an awful lot more than I do about.
So yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, because a lot of people will look at Chelsea since Todd Bowley's come in after Abramovich, and the billions that they seem to have spent, and 11 players have come in this window. You see all the stuff on social media about like they've got an extra tent or marquee for all the players, because you've got like 45 players. I know 11 goalies or what have you. The likes of Sterling and all of those sort of bombed out, not in their business. Sterling's number has been taken off him and given to Pedro Neto, the number 7. and he's been told he's not in the plan. He's come out with his people talking publicly. You know, people look at Chelsea from the outside and probably don't really see an identity with Chelsea at the moment. And I think a lot of people will be really interested because you're obviously, you know, avid Chelsea fan, follow them home and away, you know, love your club. Are you happy with how things are going, or are you sort of like, well, it is what it is at the moment, or is there a bit of frustration? How are the fan base feeling about everything that's going on?
There's absolutely frustration, of course there is, because we've underachieved massively for the past 2 seasons. There's no escaping that. There's no getting away from it. This was always going to be different, you know, whether Roman left, you know, when he left, or whether he left, you know, a few years further down the line. There was always going to be this transition period, and there was always going to be, you know, an adjustment period under a new ownership. Roman was very unique in his way that he owned a football club. I don't think you're going to see an owner like him again. Very unlikely to see one person owning a football club. It's generally consortium style these days. And of course it's changed, you know, and I think one thing that I won't knock the ownership for is ambition, and you know, they're prepared to invest money. Whether that money's been well spent or whether you think the transfer strategy is right is a separate conversation. There's definitely valid points to be had on that, but there's nothing worse than having owners that come in that aren't prepared to put their hand in their pocket and try and improve the squad. There's been a rapid change in the transfer policy. We've gone from sort of signing a lot of proven players and big names in the past in the past to now seemingly not really signing proven players and rather going for young up and coming players. Whether that's going to work out or not, only time's going to tell. On the evidence of things so far, you could argue with the results on the pitch, it perhaps hasn't worked out yet. But for me, I think frustratingly, you're not really going to know the entirety of the answer to this for maybe another season or 2. Some players are definitely good. We've definitely got quality and ability. You know, Cole Palmer's been exceptional. Malo Gusto looks a very good player. Nicholas Jackson impressed in his first season. Romeo Lavia looks a really good player as well. There's some decent players there. But yeah, look, there's definitely a sense of frustration. Of course there is, because when things aren't going well on the pitch, every little decision gets, you know, micro-analysed and stuff. And when you're winning, you sort of let these things kind of slide a little bit. You know, if Chelsea were doing well and they're winning, no one really makes a big deal of, you know, Sterling and Chilwell being, you know, told they're not part of the plans, or, you know, so-and-so leaving or whatever. No one makes a big deal of those things. But I think, you know, it's one of them where the pressure's on this season. We can't go a 3rd season without Champions League football. We need it. There's a frustration. Fans are frustrated. There seems to be a bit of a divide, I think, more maybe between sort of the younger and the older fans. I think perhaps there's maybe they're not prepared, perhaps the older fans, to accept that kind of football's evolved. We're going to play in this style now, building up from the back, patient. You know, I think a lot of people have maybe struggled to understand how football's moved on in the last 20 years. And, you know, this is how we're going to play now. And if people aren't happy with it, then I don't know what to say to them, because Maresca's been brought in to play this certain way, and that's how we're going to play. And hopefully success comes from it. But it's very much a mixed feeling right now. There's very much a lot of animosity towards the ownership. And the only way that's going to stop or quieten down is if we get the results on the pitch. So it's definitely a mixed bag at Chelsea right now.
It's quite interesting you say that, because there is quite a section of the Wolves fan base that do have an animosity towards our owners, but for exactly the opposite reason, is that we're not splashing loads of cash. Obviously, we sold Neto and we sold Kilman, and we had all the FFP issues last year, 100 and something million pounds going in. We have done a bit of business, but it's gone a bit stagnant. So there is, you know, you're spending shed loads of money and bringing players in, and there's all that. We're the flip side in the fact that we're waiting for them to spend a little bit of more money on what we've got in, and there's rumours went out last week that we've only got 20 million left to spend in the window, and that's frustrated. But it's like what you're saying. If the results on the pitch are going well, everyone's just happy and goes, "Oh yeah, it's going." If it doesn't go well, then you look at the manager or you look at the ownership, and people point the finger. You didn't bring in enough players. You never spent enough money. Or from your guys, you just brought in all these players and now we haven't got a team. The manager can't mould it. But if you're winning, everything's hunky-dory in the garden. Just on your transfers, a couple of questions on that, which I'm sure that Wolves fans will be really interested in. Your thoughts on Pedro Neto, Joe Felix coming back. He came, I think, before. He wasn't a massive success. And with all these players that you've bought, how come you haven't bought a striker?
Yeah, look, I think starting with Pedro Neto, definitely a surprise, because that was a deal that there was no reports about, no links with Chelsea and Neto necessarily. Of course, Neto was linked with Tottenham, he was linked with Arsenal and stuff, but there was nothing about Chelsea. And then suddenly that news just appeared from nowhere, and within a couple of days, the deal was virtually done. I'm delighted with the signing. One thing that Chelsea fans have complained a lot about is not signing players, who are experienced, or not signing players that have got Premier League, that are kind of Premier League proven per se. Neto absolutely ticks those boxes. I think he's one of the best wingers in the league. You've watched him for a number of years. He's got that quality. He's got that ability. Of course, there's the one question mark over him, which is his fitness. He's missed a lot of games, but if we can keep on top of that, there's a really, really good player there. And it's a much needed addition sort of in those wide areas to add another option there and add some more quality to the final third. In terms of Felix, look, he was on loan for the second half of the 22-23 season. It wasn't great. He got 4 goals in 20 appearances. He kind of lost his place in the lineup at the back end of that season when Lampard came in. It's an interesting one, the Felix deal, because as you know too well, when you sort of get into bed with Jorge Mendes, you kind of get players pushed on you.
And it can be a bit of a merry-go-round, yeah.
It can be. So we were obviously in for Samuel Morodion from Atletico Madrid. The deal was all agreed, and then suddenly that collapsed, and then instantly we were in talks with Joao Felix, and it just so happened that Jorge Mendes was at Stamford Bridge last weekend, or a couple of weekends ago, when Neto was unveiled for our last pre-season game against Inter Milan. And then suddenly Chelsea were in talks with Joao Felix, who he also represents. So kind of make of that what you will. And he's come in. I'm not a huge fan of the signing purely because of the reasons we signed him, because he's been available all summer. It's well documented that he hasn't got a lot of suitors, and yet we didn't choose to go for him. And then we really, in my opinion, only signed him so that Conor Gallagher could go to Atletico Madrid. So I'm against it for the reasons we signed him, and also I feel it's a position that we didn't really need to be filling. But having said that, he does have quality. It will be another option in the squad, add some more depth, and hopefully it works out. But I'm not really fully on board with it. But I hope he proves me wrong. And in terms of a striker, I agree. A lot of Chelsea fans would say, for the last 18 months, we've needed to sign a centre forward, and we've not been able to. Look, the striker market's not great, to be perfectly clear. I don't want us just signing players for the sake of it, because it needs to be the right fit for the squad. It needs to be, someone that's actually going to improve the first 11. Now, obviously, there's all the talks with Victor Osimhen. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. But yeah, it's frustrating we've not signed a striker. But then on the flip side, as I said, I'd rather us stick with what we've got than sign someone for the sake of it that doesn't fit what we're looking to do.
Absolutely. And just finally on the transfer before we move on to the game, are you comfortable that Chelsea are not going to be in the dock for PSR, FFP issues, because you have spent a lot of money? I know you've sold some players and the hotel and all that sort of stuff. You as a Chelsea fan, is that something that worries you a little bit, or are you fairly relaxed about it?
I'm fairly relaxed about it. Obviously, I'm not an accountant. I don't know the exact numbers and the exact ins and outs of things. But at the end of the day, Chelsea are very good at selling players. That's one thing they've always been pretty good at. So plenty of money does come into the club through player sales, which obviously helps. And yeah, the ownership have always maintained that they're compliant with the rules. And if it's one thing these guys are good at, then I'd expect it to be numbers. So it's not something that I'm losing any sleep about or that I'm worried about. But if it comes out down the line that we've fallen foul, then we have to accept the consequences of that. But as far as I'm concerned right now, I'm pretty relaxed about the situation, and I don't have any reason to have any concern over that.
That's great. So looking ahead to the game tomorrow, what can Wolves expect from Chelsea at Molineux tomorrow?
I mean, to be honest, mate, I've got absolutely no idea. I don't know what to expect from Chelsea myself. It's one of those. I think you can obviously expect us to have a go, to play on the front foot. But we've got quality players. Cole Palmer, I think Neto's going to be on the bench, but that's a Christopher Nkunku. Nicholas Jackson will probably play through the middle. I don't know what the makeup of the midfield's going to be. Defensively, we're still a little bit vulnerable. You can definitely get us defensively, particularly the centre-back pairing. I still worry about us defending the transitions, which could be an area you could have some success in. But I'd love to sit here and say you can expect this, and this is what we're going to do, and we're really great at all of it. But the reality is, I don't know what to expect from Chelsea. It's still very much, we could turn up and we could win 2 or 3-0, or we could turn up and be absolutely awful and lose 2 or 3-0. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot of middle ground right now. But I think what you can expect is us to have a go and us to play on the front foot. I think you can expect us to create a lot of chances and expect us to cause problems. But whether we can put the ball in the back of the net is a different question.
What's Maresca's style of play, would you say?
Look, it's patient build up from the back. We play a 4-3-3. Or you could call it a 4-1-4-1, depending on, if Lavia plays in the 6, which he probably will. Does he go with Enzo and Caicedo, or does he go with Dewsbury Hall in there? Does he play Nkunku as an 8? There's all these different options we've got. And I think right now he's probably still finding out what he thinks his best 11 is. I don't think Chelsea fans really know what the club's strongest 11 is. So I don't really know what players we're going to put out tomorrow and kind of how we're going to line up. But we're going to build up from the back. We're going to be patient. They're going to obviously use the wide areas as a threat. And yeah, we're just going to hope for the best, really.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously there is pressure on Chelsea. You've talked about aspirations of getting to the Champions League. Obviously, a difficult start last week against Manchester City. You did get a win in the Conference League. Obviously, a much changed Chelsea team. Coming to Molineux, where we have had a bit of recently we've kind of been a bit of a bogey team for Chelsea.
Really difficult.
We've won the last 3 encounters. I really enjoyed last year.
We did the double.
Yeah, at Stamford Bridge, where Kuna got a hat-trick and then he got injured the next game, and everything started to fall about, because just when we start to look like we're going somewhere, there's always something that comes along and ruins things, puts a spoke in the wheel for Wolves, and we had so many injuries. We fell off a lot. Obviously, we've only won 1 out of our last 12 games. We haven't had a great record in 2024 at home, losing 6 out of the 9 fixtures, but it is a new season. As we said before, Gary O'Neill's looking like he wants to play that back 4. Wolves in pre-season have been trying to turn over the ball high up the pitch, a lot higher up the pitch, and close you down, cause mistakes. We did that to a bit of success in the second half against Arsenal last week, where for about 15-20 minutes we were camped in their half, but we didn't take the chances that came away, and then Saka scored and killed the game off. I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think you're expecting Pedro Neto to probably start on the bench because he did play on Thursday, but he will get a great reception if he does come on, Pedro Neto, because he was much loved by Wolves fans. Taking all that into account, are you gonna stick your neck out and give us a score prediction?
Look, for me, I'd be surprised if we won, to be totally honest. I'd probably sit on the fence with a 1-1, but as I've said, I know obviously it could end up being anything, but it literally could. All 3 results are very, very plausible. But for me, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I'm just not sure we're quite ready to sort of win a game of this magnitude.
Will the Chelsea fans be content with a draw tomorrow, do you think?
Some might be, others definitely won't be. It's one of those. But look, I think, considering our record at Molineux in recent years, I think we'd have to be content with a point, even though it would be disappointing and frustrating. We'd have to wait for potentially our 3rd game of the season to get a first Premier League win. Sometimes that's the way it goes. But yeah, I would certainly take a point right now.
And finally, mate, where do you expect Chelsea and Wolves to finish this season?
That's a big question. For me, I think Chelsea, I think we'll finish somewhere between 4th and 6th. I think that the 4th spot is massively up for grabs, with the likes of obviously us, United, Villa, Newcastle, Tottenham. these sorts of teams, that's there for the taking, that fourth spot. And so whoever can put a good run together, get that consistency, that's there for the taking. I still think Liverpool are a little bit of an unknown on the slot, but I still think they're the third best team in the league regardless. So I think we can finish fourth. In terms of Wolves, I'm not really sure. It's easy to just go, they'll finish like 12th or 13th or something. But that's where I probably see Wolves. Maybe at a best, they could maybe sneak into the top 10 potentially. But I think right now, as things stand, I'd say maybe sort of around 12th place.
Okay, that's brilliant. Listen, Charlie, thank you ever so much for giving up your time to come and talk to us today. And hopefully I'll get to see you around Molineux at some point tomorrow. I'm trying to get to say hello. And I'll be seeing Alex before the game. How can people find you guys and yourself?
Yeah, so obviously we're over on Chelsea Fan TV, on YouTube, on all the socials. Loads of stuff on there, all your Chelsea news, match like fan cams after the games and all that sort of thing. And then I've obviously got my own personal channel as well, nearly at 12,000 subscribers. So yeah, it's on the screen there at Blue Brother CFC. So if you want to subscribe and have a look, watch the match day vlog tomorrow from a Chelsea fan perspective, then yeah, feel free to subscribe. The channel name is on the screen now.
Absolutely brilliant. To make sure you guys go and check out. There's sure to be a lot of Wolves fans that'll be checking out the Chelsea reactions after the game, so that'd be interesting. Charlie, have a really safe trip up tomorrow. I know it's a bit of a long journey that you're stopping at virtually every station on the way up, but hope you have a good journey back and have a safe journey home, but hopefully not with any points, because we want to get up and running as well, because we have got a very difficult start. Yeah, absolutely. No, mate. Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. All the best. Take care, mate. Cheers.